Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity, the left's agenda. All week, Democrats and the liberal media have been hysterically calling for President Trump to be impeached. Last night, one MSNBC guest even argued that the founding fathers would support Trump's impeachment. Take a look at this.
What are the Democrats going to do? Should they be talking impeachment now, finally, after all this action of this week?
If you had asked me that a few months back, Chris, I would have said no, that Democrats should hold off on talking about impeachment because we need to see all of the facts. And I still think that we need to see all of the facts, but I think Tuesday changed things fundamentally in this country. I think that Democrats can start talking about impeachment, not saying that we should just remove the president without going through the full two-step process, right? But I think that if now is when we can't talk about impeachment. When can we talk about impeachment? The president was implicated in a crime, and I can't imagine a scenario that could be any more ripe for a serious discussion by responsible adults. It's exactly what the framers would have wanted.
And over on CNN, one host claimed it was President Trump who was playing the politics of fear by mentioning impeachment. Take a look at this.
I first just want to get your take on what we heard from Giuliani and President Trump talking about impeachment. The president forced to address his own impeachment.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like they're playing politics of fear right out of that playbook.
They are. Rudy Giuliani, remember, is not playing legal counsel per se to the president. He's playing political advisor. And in sort of stoking these fears among the electorate that if Democrats win the House, they'll try to impeach the president, that's for turnout. That's a good message. That's a good fear for Rudy Giuliani and Trump to convey to Republicans.
What they failed to mention is that it is the left and the media that's been obsessed with impeaching President Trump. They mentioned the word impeachment hundreds of times just over the past few days. Here are just some examples.
Given the events of today, the likelihood of impeachment, I'm not saying it's high necessarily, but it certainly went up.
Impeachment.
Impeached.
Impeachment.
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 The president is clearly guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. He should resign his office or be impeached.
Today, the Trump presidency took a giant step toward impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment implications are now in the air.
Impeachment.
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 If it is a crime, it certainly is an impeachable offense.
Impeach Trump.
Impeachment.
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 Impeachment is a word in play here in Washington today. The impeachment.
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 Impeachment. Impeachment here.
Impeachment. Impeachment.
Should the president be impeached?
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
There are Democrats who say there's now more than enough to impeach.
Is itself an impeachable offense.
Consider something as serious as impeachment.
Impeachment. The impeachment process.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Right. The president will be removed from office after an impeachment trial.
On the impeachment issue,
Talk about impeachment.
Want to talk about impeachment?
impeachment right now.
Do not talk about impeachment.
Joining us now with a reaction is Fox News contributor and Washington Times columnist Charles Hurt, Florida Congressman Ron DeSantis, and Judicial Watch Director of Investigations Christopher Farrell. All right, gentlemen, I'll start with you, Congressman DeSantis. You know, the truth is that they don't like President Trump, and they want to impeach him for any reason. So I don't know if it's Russia or if it's Michael Cohen or what it is. I mean, have they even come up with anything impeachable?
Well, Judge, we actually voted down an impeachment chance in the House earlier this year that included things like his tweets and the fact that he criticized NFL players for kneeling. They actually, Democrats wrote that into this thing. I also find it a little curious, you know, I was one of the guys who blew the whistle on what Congress was doing by using taxpayer funds to pay secret sexual harassment settlements. And that was a bad practice. I blew the whistle on it. We stopped it in the House. But I would reckon that some of these Democrats who are talking about impeaching, you know, they probably could potentially have been involved in that. I mean, so Congress does this stuff by using tax dollars, and they're going to say a private settlement is somehow an impeachable thing. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
All right, and Charles Hurt, I'll
Richard, you've been hanging on patiently from York, Maine, Republican. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
You bet.
For this time. I'd have to give the president a D-, and it's not so much about all of what's been going on. It's that, there's a quote that goes, if you bite and devour one another, beware at least you be consumed by one another. We've been divided, whether you're liberal, Democrat, Republican, etc. And we're divided as a country. And as a country, we're ignoring the real issues that Americans need. Other countries, China, Russia, they're now in South America. China has got 1 million people right now actually doing business in Africa. What are we doing for Americans? And as long as we're divided, as long as we're against each other, I'm talking neighbor against neighbor, it's impossible to even have these conversations. And that's what's happened. We've been divided. It's not about whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. It's about his continuing to try to divide us. And that's my concern. Where's our kids going to be? Where are our grandkids going to be in 10 years from now? We have serious problems in this country. We have drug problems in this country. Our educational system, we've got college kids who cannot pay their college loans because of the high interest rates. Concentrate on what America needs, not on what politicians need. And that's my concern. And I, again, want to thank you so much for this basically C-SPAN.
Richard, thank you for weighing in. Mike is calling from Laurel Park in New York, Democrats line. Hey, Mike.
Hi there. Yeah, I give Trump a D.
Did you say B?
A D, as in dummy.
Okay.
And I give the callers who are talking about the economy. I don't know what country they were in 2009 when Obama took over. The market had, spun out of control. The unemployment rate was 10 plus percent. He brought it down to 4 something. Trump has brought it from 4 something down to 3.9. Obama's going to go down as the greatest stock market man of all time. The stock market went up 200-300%. When Trump was elected, it went up a little bit more because he infused $2 trillion that people aren't complaining about a deficit now because it's him, and that's all we heard with Obama when he wanted to do infrastructure. I mean, it's stunning how ridiculous. I don't want to call people anybody a bigot or a racist. I never did, but when I hear this stuff with Trump and Obama, talking about Obama, and he didn't do anything. He saved the economy. He had that stimulus that stopped the unemployment rate from going, I don't know where it would have gone. He had that stimulus for cars, cash for clunkers, that helped a lot. I mean, Trump had he rolled back some stuff for coal plants so they can dump stuff in lakes and creeks. I mean, he hasn't visited the troops at all because he's afraid. I mean, it's just amazing what these people. I don't know where they were in 2009 and 10, but yeah, I give him a D.
Okay, caller from New York there, Mike. Back to Twitter, Jody writes, "My dear Mr. President, North Korea has not canceled their nuclear program like they told us they were. Tell me again why this doesn't make you a liar." Michael writes, "Trump is right to place the blame on China. North Korea has been a vassal state of China since the Korean War," following up on the news about the cancellation of the Secretary of State's trip. More of the right on the line from Fairfax, Virginia, independent caller. Hey there.
Hey there. Good morning.
Good morning.
First off, thanks for C-SPAN.
You're welcome.
Great what you guys do. And just want to reiterate that the fact that you literally just sort of cover it and, there's no commentary from your end, that's really powerful. And I wish more people would understand that. A couple of my comments are, the president is a lot of it's about the ideas. Some of the ideas are really generally pretty good. It's the execution that is poor, and unfortunately, he's a real divider, right? And there's a lot of areas I don't necessarily want to hit on. I think people recognize that. The tax bill, for example, the lowering of the corporate income tax or corporate tax was a pretty good thing. It makes us more competitive and reduces the number of corporations leaving the U.S. On the flip side, probably not enough benefits for John Q. Public. Opening up North Korea initially, what a great thing. You know, we'll see how the execution goes there. Let's take a look at NATO. You know, the idea of making NATO pay their fair share, absolutely, right? But the execution of alienating our allies who we've been with for, you know, almost 70 years or more, I think is really is not so great. And then, you know, when we get, you know, it feels like right now, you know, it's like you got a teenager running your house. You know, are things going to get done? Yeah, but probably not so well as they need to. And I guess one of my last comments is, you know, a lot of people beat him up on his IQ and how smart he is. I think the broader question is this idea of an EQ, an emotional quotient, and we just see that, you know, again, there's dividing. And it's unfortunate because really a lot of the ideas at the end of the day are not so bad. And lastly, I'll say, unfortunately, you know, the moral leadership is really lost. And as we saw in Admiral McCraven's most recent op-ed, I think he calls it out. And I think that's what's really unfortunate. So thanks a lot for the time, and all the best to you.
Voice of Hugo there. Thanks for calling in. Other voices, these at Twitter this morning. Marie writes, I'm thankful President Trump was able to bring back our Korean War veterans who were left behind by all other presidents before him. There's also Bill King who writes, it does not matter what grade President Trump gives himself. What matters is the grade Robert Mueller is going to give him. A little bit more now from the Fox caller there from Atlanta. I want to show you a new ad from a group called Republicans for the Rule of Law. They released this ad last week. It ran on Fox, it ran on MSNBC, and they're talking here about the Mueller investigation. Here's a look.
This is a pure and simple witch hunt. Witch hunt. Witch hunt.
Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, pled guilty.
Phony witch hunt.
Trump campaign advisor Rick Gates pleaded guilty.
It's a total witch hunt.
Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt.
His former campaign chair, Paul Manafort, found guilty on 8 counts.
President Donald Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, pleading guilty to criminal charges.
The Mueller investigation is not a witch hunt. Stop the attacks on the special counsel.
And there is this from the Washington Post, written just a couple of days ago by Michael Gerson, who was a top aide to President George W. Bush, a cancer on the presidency in part. Mr. Gerson writes that every time we gain a peek into the inner workings of Trump world, we see a leader with the ethics of an Atlantic City casino owner who surrounds himself with people chosen for their willingness to lie and cheat at his bidding. A world in which Paul Manafort is a, quote, very good person. A world in which payoffs and election tampering are all in a day's work. Left to his investigation, Mueller will expose this world to the light, and the choice for Congress is likely to be clear: impeach or tolerate mass corruption. Michael Gerson there, writing in the Post. Let's go to Susan. Susan's on the line for Democrats now from Sarasota, Florida. Hi there.
Hi. Wow, a lot of interesting things there. None of this would have happened as far as the witch hunt, the so-called witch hunt, if he had released his tax returns at the very beginning, because those papers are what he's trying to hide, and those papers are what Robert Mueller is trying to uncover, and he's forced to uncover those facts and figures. I believe that Trump is deserves an F because he deserves a T because I think he's a traitor to this country. He makes claims, he boasts a lot. I believe that he's a child murderer and a child kidnapper and a child loser, a loser of children. Look at all the kids taken away from their mothers at the border. Look at all the kids in Yemen who are being bombed with Trump's approval and assistance. Look at all the kids in Syria being bombed and murdered with Trump's approval and assistance and cooperation with Russia to do that. I have a lot of people before me on this program have said things that I can't say any better. I don't think that he has done any of the things that he said he was going to do. He's created a lot of enemies, and I've been for a long time I have been wondering why he gets any support at all. And I think, stupid me, I think all those 2 years that he spent on TV, he's an entertainer, he's a clown, he's a personality that people have identified with. And I think that's the kindest thing I can say about it, about his popularity. I don't think that he believes in any humanitarian thing at all. It's just greed, and I want. Thank you very much.
Susan there from Sarasota, Florida. Time for a couple more calls, but first this story that we noticed as well in Politico this morning. Republicans are saying that Sessions, the Attorney General, might be gone after the midterms. They write here that Republicans on the Hill who have long protected Mr. Sessions from the wrath of his own boss increasingly think his time is up. Senator Bob Corker, Tennessee, said Thursday evening he believes, quote, moves are being made to oust Sessions after the midterm elections. It's apparent that after the midterms he will make a change and choose someone to do what he wants done, Corker said in a phone call. Quote, it just feels to me that after the midterms, the president will make the change. We're in a very sad place in our country's history, said Corker. Politico goes on to say this news comes just hours after top Senate Republicans sent dueling signals about whether it would be safe for the president to fire the attorney general. A movie is contemplated with anticipation for almost a year. That changed on Thursday when Senator Lindsey Graham touched off a furious debate on the Hill, appearing almost to encourage Trump to send Sessions packing. The South Carolina senator said he was open to confirming another attorney general and that concerns his colleagues once harbored that Sessions' firing would set off a chain of potentially fatal events for the president, culminating in his dismissal of Robert Mueller, were no longer operative. And that's the writing of Politico this morning. And that was actually our last call. We will take more calls in a couple of minutes.